Hey, what is going on, guys? So today we're taking a look here at the Master Grade Gundam Spiegel, otherwise known as the Shadow Gundam. And I wanted to take a look at this kit because it's one of those ones where it seems like it just me and maybe a lot of you guys as well also just kind of often forget that it even exists. I don't really know exactly why this was made as one of the Master Grade kits from G Gundam. We only got a few, and why they made the Shadow Gundam or Gundam Spiegel here, not exactly entirely sure. It seems like a little bit of an odd choice, and it's not one that I ever really see people building very often, so I don't think it gets a whole lot of love. So I thought it'd be interesting to just take a look at it and see what the kit's like. It is a really old Master Grade, coming back from all the way from 2002, so I'm not expecting too much, and honestly I'm really hoping that someday we'll get at least one, hopefully more, two Master Grade 2.0 kits from the G Gundam line, and probably of the God Gundam, of course, but I'm hoping for a Master Gundam 2.0 as well. That would be awesome, but not holding my breath on that. But let's have a look here at the Gundam Spiegel. This is Master Grade Fighting Action. We've got the Fighting Action logo up there at the top as well, which is kind of interesting. And it comes from that time in Master Grade history where we were having like these CG renders for the box art. We also got Schwarzbruder down there at the bottom doing a fighting pose. So that's kind of interesting, just kind of illustration there at the bottom as well. And just design wise, the Gundam itself never really seems to really fit what it was supposed to be, how he was supposed to be this sort of like very martial artist, right? And like the blades I get, but the rest of the Gundam design doesn't really scream so much very martial arts, as much as like the Shining Gundam or the God Gundam or a lot of the other Gundams from the series. It doesn't really quite look like that in my personal opinion. Here on the ends of the box, we just kind of got the same thing there. Over here on this side, we've got the front view and the rear view. He's got like these gold buttons, not gold, they're yellow, but these buttons around the chest and around the backpack, or the back skirt that look kind of odd. It's just got a very large back skirt and very large shoulders, again, which just to me don't really look like something that would be on like a martial arts fighting Gundam. But anyway, it does look like it has a relatively extensive inner frame for a 2002 Master Grade, so it doesn't look all that bad in terms of the frame itself. We'll see once all the armor's on how well the articulation ends up being, but you can see just posing of the frame does look pretty good. It's got the Spiegel blades, of course, as it's going to be its primary weapons. It's not really going to come with anything else. Cockpit hatch that opens up. The core lander, it's got that, of course, can be pulled out or installed as the backpack, of course. We've got Schwarzbruder and Rain Mikamura for our two 120 scale pilot figures included with this, so that's cool. You actually get two of them in this. I believe this is maybe one of the only kits that comes with two of those pilot figures. Of course, any modern Master Grades don't come with them at all. This is a time when they were making the 120 scale pilot figures included with the kits. On the other side of the box here, Fighting Action, we've got some different poses here with the blades. You've got slicing or posing, or slicing or posing or slicing is pretty much going to be your only options for this. And then the list price of 2,500 yen, so it's a very cheap Master Grade as well. As you can see, it's not a very big box. It's like the same size as kind of like a standard high grade box for a lot of high grades that we see coming out these days. So not going to be a super detailed kit with a ton of parts, but here we have our insert here on the inside of the box, which is actually in red, which I think this is the first time I've ever seen that, but maybe this is exclusive to the G Gundam Master Grade kits, where they have this red background because they're Fighting Action Master Grades here instead of just the regular ones, I guess. So nice big reference image here of the painted kit. Looks pretty good. Let's take a look at all the runners in more detail in a moment. Want to find our way down here to the manual, and this is also kind of interesting. Here on the manual, this is coming from the time when Master Grade kits, usually in this part of the manual on the front, they have the line arts of the profile of the Gundam's head. But in this case, we just have a shadow of the Gundam, which I guess makes sense with its kind of nickname being Shadow Gundam. We just have that on there rather than the illustration or the line art of the head. On the back side of the manual is the back side of the Gundam, so you got all that there. And then on the inside, the Gundam Fight Ready Go, we've got image there of the 120 scale Schwarzbruder in the foreground with the Gundam in the background, a mystery masked fighter, okay, a mind as serene as still water, so there it is with the Shining Gundam, and then a showdown fighting against the God Gundam there down at the bottom. Over here, more about the fighting action, basically kind of the same stuff we saw on the outside of the box, of course, all of that there, and then the painting guide down here, painting guide for the Gundam, and then for the characters down there, you just got some reference images for them as well. For Rain Mikamura, interestingly, you have two options for the head. You have the masked head or the unmasked head, so you can choose which one you want to end up using for that. Going back here to the front page, the inside front page, you got some really nice line art there of the Gundam front and back. You got a whole bunch of text all in Japanese, but that line art is really nice. Always nice that that's included. Over here, a breakdown of different parts of the Gundam. And then our parts list. So we've got all of that here, and it looks like it's going to be using everything. Now, I'm not sure about these runners, if they used the same interframe runners for multiple master grade kits from the G Gundam line. I'm not sure, but we'll see once we take a look at the runner labels. It should be more obvious. I actually don't really know offhand, but then it just gets right into the construction. It looks like you're building the arms, like the blades and the arms first, interestingly enough. You're building up those, and then once the arms are done, then building the legs. Over here we got some more nice illustrations. Now, a lot of times these old master grade kits had illustrations, like mechanical illustrations of different parts of the Gundam. It looks like we've got that one of those down here, kind of just with the cockpit open up. But then these are just sort of like action illustrations. I guess you can sort of see it's got a kind of x-ray view of the cockpit there inside the Gundam there in this action pose, and then another action pose illustration up here, or just sort of pose up there. And then continuing on with the legs construction here, and it looks like we've got a good amount of screws in this kit. That's always interesting. And then over here, illustration of the core lander. So that looks pretty cool. And then the Spiegel blade, another just illustration of the Gundam there. So some nice illustrations of the Gundam. I personally do prefer the like more mechanical illustration kind of stuff, though. It's more interesting to see. And then just the figures, the pilots down there. And it's just finishing the construction, and then the construction of the figures down here. And then a little bit about the posing of that and the using of the blades. It's all relatively simple enough, I think. Interestingly, here on the last page is normally where we would see where to place all the stickers, but there's nothing here, so maybe this doesn't include some markings, but it does include. You can see over here a few marking stickers, so I guess those are just kind of you're on your own just to place those wherever you like, because there's no guide here in the manual as to where those are supposed to go technically. But let's just get into the runners. Alright, so here is the foil sticker sheet, very minimal, just the eyes and two little green cameras. And the marking stickers, there you can see just the Schwarzbruder, Neo Germany logos there, Shadow Gundam, Spiegel Gundam there, and then the Chinese characters in black and in white. And not one, but two bags of a bunch of different screws. So like I said, it's going to have a lot of screws on the inner frame for this kit. And then a surprisingly small runner of polycaps for this kit, PC123, for just a small handful of polycaps, especially for a master grade kit coming out at this time in the early 2000s. This is a very small amount of polycaps. Alright, so then our A runner here is in 4 different colors. We got a couple of clear parts down at the bottom for the eyes and the canopy on the core lander. Then we've got some red across the top, some dark navy throughout the center, and then over here yellow parts for little yellow accents and stuff. And you have your V-fin part, which is protected in this very thick protection bit all around here to keep your V-fin nice and safe. That's good. And then we're going to be some of our white parts here for the kit. You can see parts for the arms, legs, the core fighter, core lander, I guess I should say, the head, and the torso, backpack, and all that on here. And then runner C. Now this is a very interesting one. It is in a very soft plastic, or rubber I should say. Actually, it's much softer even than polycaps, and this seems to be parts for the hands as well as the bottom of the feet. So the bottom of the feet is going to be in this rubbery plastic, and then the hands on here as well. And I wanted to show these to you close up because it's really a shame because these parts for the hands, I mean the molding of the hands does look really cool, and like the shape of them looks nice. And then over here you got your closed fists, open hands. So the hand options look really good, but the fact that they're all in this soft rubber is pretty sad. Runner D here is now getting into some gray ABS parts here for the inner frame. Now this runner is specifically marked for the Spiegel, so it doesn't look like that this is going to be anything that would be used for multiple G Gundam kits anyway. Runner E here is a few more white parts, including our blades, as you can see there. Runner F is some more parts here in that dark navy, and we've got 2 of these. Alright, the runner G here is back to ABS gray parts for the inner frame. Now this runner is marked Action Frame 1, so I guess these parts would be parts that would be used for multiple G Gundam master grades, I'm assuming. Then we've got runner H, which is another interesting one, as this is once again in a soft plastic like your polycaps. So this is a PE plastic here for this, and it's just obviously the yellow part there for the V-fin. So you've got a soft plastic V-fin in here as well, I guess in case you were worried about breaking the V-fin that was molded on the A runner. And then runners I1 and I2, obviously the parts here for the pilot figures. Now once again, these are also molded in a soft plastic, so it just makes working with them that much a little bit harder. So while the detail on them is nice, they are going to be a little bit of a pain to work with in my opinion. So that is it for the unboxing, guys. As always, a huge thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support in sponsoring this review. Check the link to their site down below. You can save 10% off everything on their site using the coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Alright guys, and all built up, here's how it's going to look, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed by this kit. If you guys missed the live stream build of this, you can go back and watch that, but just throughout the whole building process, it was kind of annoying because of all the screws, basically. It has a lot of screws in there, but I actually found the screws to be actually sort of helpful. I mean, the kit is very solid, as we'll see later as we take a look more at it in depth, but I'm really quite surprised at just how solid the kit is and just how few seam lines the kit has as well. Again, just considering the age of the kits, it's definitely better than what I was expecting. There's still some flaws, to be sure, definitely with this kit. There's some pros and cons, but overall I'm much more happy with this kit than I expected to be. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the articulation, as that's kind of the main point of the kit here. First, the first thing I want to talk about here is the chest piece, which has a cool gimmick, but it's something that's going to be kind of annoying. So first of all, you can open these parts up here like that on the front, but you can't actually really see anything in there. Those just open up. But the other thing that it does is this whole chest section will push back into the torso like that, and the reason for that is to allow you the space to cross the arms in front of the chest closer, to do some sort of pose where you have the arms crossed in front of the chest. So with the chest sticking out to its fullest, then it's a little bit harder to get the arms in front of the chest there, but if you push that back in a little bit, it's easier to do that pose. So it's a kind of interesting little gimmick. Doesn't seem to be all really that helpful, to be honest, but it does work pretty well. The problem is then to pull that back out, you need to kind of pop this part out, and this part is supposed to pop back out into place, and this part here on the top, I keep finding it keeps popping out of place, and I keep having to put it back because it keeps wanting to just fall out like that. So while it is a really cool gimmick, I keep finding that as I'm handling the kit, I keep pushing it in by accident, and it's just a little bit annoying. But alright, as for the head won't really go up very far because of the shape of the back of the helmet. It kind of doesn't allow you to move the head back at all. And then it can go down just a little bit to there, so up and down movement there. The head is pretty minimal, you just got a little bit. Of course it can turn side to side and all that as well. Now one weak point of the articulation that I'm finding actually is in the middle section here, the torso section. You do have a little bit of an ab crunch there, which is pretty good for such an old MG, but it's quite loose. I'm finding it just kind of rolls around a little bit too much. It does kind of stay in place where you need it to, but it does, I think you could go ahead and tighten that up a little bit, would probably be for the best. Rotation here at the torso is also pretty good. You can move that side to side. The shoulder joint is also pretty impressive as it comes all the way out to the front there like that. Pretty good. The most shoulder armor can move up like that, and this red piece in there is also separate. It can move a little bit up and down like that. Basically to put that in and out of the way for when you have the arm pointed up, which is going to be pretty tight. This is one of the joints that has a screw in it, so it's kind of tight as it is at the moment. But even with that red part out of the way, you can still only get the arm up to about there, it seems like, which is really only about 90 degrees, kind of barely. So still the arm is not really going to move up and down all that much. Got some rotation there at the top of the arm, double joint there in the elbow to give you a nice full bend there for that. And then of course the hand is just on a ball joint, and of course these are those soft rubber type hands, which is definitely one of the negative points of this kit, to have those soft rubber hands. And then you got the blade here on the back of the arm, which folds out, and you got the handle here on this as well. So the handle folds out, and then you fold this whole thing around, and then the handle will fit into the holding hands, which we got on here. Those will just look like that. So you see you got the hole there just for holding onto the blade there, blade handle. And then while we're here are the other hand options, these open hands like that. And then these other hands here, which are opposite. One is pointed up and one is pointed down like that for doing some more fighting poses. The skirt armor will move up and down on its own like that. The side skirt armor will also move up and down. It's just on a ball joint so that it can kind of move around. And then the back skirt here also will move up and down a little bit as well. Those little yellow parts are actually separate pieces. Well, on the back here, it's all one piece for those yellow parts there, or two pieces, I should say. Here on the front though, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different little yellow circle pieces on there. So no stickers or anything for that. That's good. The hips are unfortunately just ball and socket joints, so the maximum width is going to be out to about there, and as you can see, you got some nice detail up underneath the skirt armor, which is pretty good. But like with the shoulder, you can only bring the knee up to about 90 degrees from the body there, and then we do have a double joint here in the knee though, so a nice full double knee joint bend there. No separation of this knee armor though, unfortunately. I feel like you could probably mod that pretty easily though. And then down here in the ankles, this ankle armor will move up and down. The toe bend will move up, but not down. Well, it's sort of down a little bit, tiny bit. ultimately the foot will come all the way forward to there and all the way back to there like that. So pretty good there actually in the ankles. And then once again, these are soft rubber parts here underneath the feet, which I don't really like, but at least underneath the feet they're pretty hidden and don't really do much. I guess they probably do help with the stability, as they give you a little bit better grip, because they don't really have actually much surface area where they're actually going to be touching the mat or the floor or whatever you have this set on. But those are all right, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty basic. Here on the backpack, the core fighter does come out, and you can sort of transform that by just kind of moving these parts around a little bit like that. And inside here, if you open that up, you could have a little seated pilot figure up inside there. But this is pretty simple. But again, some nice detail on here. Here's basically one of the few areas where you have seam line on this kit, is just right here on the side of this part, and then maybe a little bit there sort of, but that's kind of a little bit more like a detail, it looks like. So a little bit of seam line action here on the backpack parts. But other than that, if we just take a look at the shoulder here, the seam line is hidden as a detail along the edge. The upper arm, this is all one piece. The lower arm, the seam line is hidden as a pentaline detail there, and then this cuff part is all one piece to fit around that, so that hides the seam line. And then no seam on the back as well. You do have somewhat of a seam line there on the top of the torso, but that's pretty normal. No seam line on the head, as the helmet is just one piece that fits on top of there. No seam line on the thigh, as those pieces go together to hide the seam line there. And then also here on the lower leg, no seam lines here, except for maybe a little one here on the lower leg, just that little section there underneath this calf part, just this little bit there. A little bit of a seam, but again, that one is going to be pretty simple, I feel like, to get rid of. Otherwise, that is it. So for a kit of this age to have so little seam lines on it is pretty impressive. So yeah, of course, basically the point of this kit is to be able to do some cool fighting poses. So that's what I want to try out here, trying some different fighting poses. And as you may have noticed, it doesn't come with any sort of action-based stand, as again, this kind of comes from an age before action-based were really much of a thing. And because it's a mobile fighter, I feel like it's probably just meant to be sort of on the ground anyway, although you could do some cool jumping poses if you had this up on an action-based stand. But for the time being, I'll just keep it on the ground, trying some different poses here. But yeah, it's pretty amazing how good the articulation is for this. Again, for the age of it, I really think the posing this kit is quite fun. The different poses that you can do with it are pretty nice, and you can do pretty much anything you want. There's a couple of points, especially if you're doing ground posing like this, wish the ankles are maybe a little bit better, the hips can maybe be a little bit better, but otherwise, I mean, and the upward mobility of the shoulders, I mean, could be a little bit better as well. But again, these are small things that could use a little bit of improvement as far as the articulation goes. But overall, again, just considering the age, the articulation is really good for what it is. And again, I'll keep going back to this one as well. The point of it not having any seam lines as well just really blows my mind for its age. And then, I mean, overall, it is pretty lacking in detail, though. There's not a ton of surface detail on this kit. There are some areas that are nicely detailed, like around on the chest, like the head is pretty nicely detailed as well, but like the legs, the whole shoulders, arms, skirt sections are all pretty lacking in detail. So if you wanted to add some more, you could. But again, I feel like for what the original design of the Gundam is, and like just G Gundam in general, I don't really feel like the lack of detail is like inaccurate. I feel like it's pretty accurate, the amount of detail that it has. But that said, if you're the kind of person that likes to add more detail to your kits, there's certainly space on here for you to do that. And I also noticed that I had these side skirts on backwards, sorry about that. And just overall, I think the kit actually looks pretty good proportionally as well. There's maybe a few tweaks that I would like to make just personally, but I think just comparing it to the line art, the proportions are actually pretty good and pretty accurate. So again, whether you're necessarily a fan of G Gundam or not, or this particular Gundam either, whereas for me, I'm a big G Gundam fan, not really that big of a fan of this particular Gundam though, although I gotta say this kit just has really impressed me all the way around. So I'm interested in checking out some more kits of the Master Grade G Gundam line. There's a few of them, they're all pretty old though, and as far as I can tell, this one is probably one of the best ones, so I think I probably will be maybe a little bit disappointed with some of the other ones, but I don't know. Let me know if you guys have built any other ones, the other Master Grades. There's only really a couple of them from G Gundam, but if you guys have built the other ones, what would you recommend me to check out next? I really love the Master Gundam, but I've heard the Master Gundam Master Grade kit is not that good. So if you guys have built that, or the God Gundam, just let me know what you think about those. And while the series is pretty polarizing, I know there's a lot of fans out there of the series who would like to see more G Gundam kits come out in the future. So my question to you guys is, what Gundams would you like to see? I know there's always the meme of a Tequila Gundam, the Mermaid Gundam, and like the really goofy ones, but just like realistically, or a little bit more realistically, what kits would you like to see come out from G Gundam, and maybe as future master grades or high grades as well. I think there's definitely room for them to make some more nice high grades of like the Bolt Gundam, the Dragon Gundam, some of like the main ones. And then as far as master grades go, I would love to see a 2.0 of the God Gundam, a 2.0 of the Master Gundam ideally, but I don't expect that to be quite as realistic, but I just have my fingers crossed on that one. But let me know what you guys think about this kit. Let me know what kits you would like to see come out more in the future as far as G Gundam kits go. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any other further questions or comments, do feel free to let me know down below. And again, thank you to USA Gundam Store for sponsoring the review. I'll see you guys all later. Have a great day. Bye, guys.